Hello, and welcome to episode 26 of the Law of Attraction for Writers podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Lieurance, and today I'm going to be talking about staying motivated when your progress feels slow. So last time we talked about one of the most common challenges for writers, and that is feeling ready, or rather they don't feel ready to write or ready to submit, that kind of thing. Today we're going to talk about finishing stuff and staying motivated to finish. Because what happens when you're doing the work but the results seem to be taking forever? It's hard to stay motivated. Maybe you've been writing consistently for weeks, months, or even years. Maybe you've even finished a manuscript, or maybe you've started a blog, or you've launched your newsletter, or maybe you've finally begun sharing your work online. And yet, the progress you hope to see just isn't happening as quickly as you expected. So what happens is the excitement you felt in the beginning starts to fade. And then doubt begins to creep in. And you begin to wonder if all your effort is really making a difference. So have you ever felt that way? If you have, you're certainly not alone. And today I'm going to talk about how to stay motivated when progress feels slow. Because trust me, it'll feel slow a lot of the time, especially if you're writing a book. So let's talk about it in terms of law of attraction. One of the biggest mistakes writers make is tying their motivation entirely to results. Because when results are visible, motivation's easy, right? You receive positive feedback, or you finish a chapter, maybe you get a new subscriber to your newsletter, or you make a sale. Maybe you receive an acceptance letter from an editor or publisher, and all of these moments are wonderful. But the challenge comes during the periods when none of those things seem to be happening. Because every writing journey includes invisible stages. In fact, much of the writing process is invisible. Readers don't see the hours you spend planning. They don't see all those revisions you make. They don't see the false starts. They don't see the pages you delete. They only see the finished result. And some of us might say, thank goodness. Anyway, the law of attraction teaches us that manifestation often begins long before physical evidence appears. Think about planting a seed. You don't plant a seed and then go dig it up every few days to see if it's growing, right? You kind of trust the process. You might water the seed. You might care for it in other ways. You give it time to grow. And writing works much the same way. And many writers abandon their goals because they mistake a lack of visible results for a lack of progress. But progress and results are not always the same thing. So keep thinking of that seed underground. It's doing things even though you don't see it. Now, you could be making tremendous progress while seeing very little evidence on the surface. For example, your writing skills may be improving. You may be growing in confidence. You're feeling a lot more confident than you were before. Or maybe your understanding of the craft of writing is getting deeper. And maybe your audience is slowly building. All of that matters. And all of that contributes to future results. So here's sort of a personal example. One thing I've learned throughout my writing career is that many of the most important breakthroughs didn't happen overnight. They happened after months or years of consistent effort. And there were times when I felt like I was working hard without much to show for it. But looking back, I can see that every article, every book I've ever written, every course I've created or taken, every conversation was preparing me for opportunities that came later. And at the time, I couldn't always see the connection, but now I can. The same may be true for you. The work you're doing today may be preparing you for opportunities that haven't appeared yet. And I think that's a good way to look at it, because then you don't put so much pressure on yourself of, oh my gosh, nothing's happening. Just kind of relax into that allowing stage of your writing career and say, I'm going to enjoy writing and I'm allowing what's going to happen next. So here's a practical writing tip. It's called track your process goals. So one reason writers become discouraged is they focus entirely on outcome goals. For example, an outcome goal is they publish a book, or they get an agent, or they reach a certain number of readers, or they earn a specific amount of income. There's nothing wrong with those goals. In fact, we always want most of those things, but those goals are not entirely under your control. What is under your control are your process goals. Those are things like writing every day, completing a chapter, submitting your work, or maybe just spending 30 minutes on your current writing project, or just sending out a query. Process goals keep you focused on what you can influence right now. And when you consistently achieve your process goals, the outcomes often take care of themselves. So you eventually reach those other goals. So here's an action step. This week, choose one writing goal and turn it into a process goal. Instead of focusing on a result you want someday, focus on an action you can take today. Then celebrate yourself for completing that action regardless of the outcome. And this simple shift can dramatically increase your motivation and reduce frustration. So try it. When progress feels slow, remember this: not all growth is visible. Not all progress can be measured immediately, and not every important change happens on the surface. So just keep showing up, keep writing, keep learning, keep taking action. The work you're doing today matters even if the results haven't fully appeared yet. Success in writing is often less about talent and more about staying in the game long enough for your efforts to compound. So just remember that. Just keep going. And I always tell my clients, as long as you're taking one little step forward toward your goals every single day, you're making progress. The problem comes when we expect to have these great things happen overnight or even after a certain amount of time. We just have to let them happen when they're going to happen. So thanks for joining me today. Next week we're going to talk about another important topic, and that is something that we all tend to do, and that is how to stop comparing yourself to other writers and stay focused on your own writing path. So until then, keep writing, keep believing, and keep moving toward the writing life you want to create. Bye.